Well, greetings, vinyl community, and welcome to the last VC Friday for 2025. Today is Boxing Day. I hope you all got everything you wanted for Christmas. I know I didn't. I told Santa, I've been a very, very good boy this year. Please bring me a very, very bad girl. But he wasn't falling for that, so maybe next year. So I have 5 new vinyl acquisitions to report on this week. I tell you that in advance so you know just how much you have to suffer through. And the first 4 all came from a single very fruitful visit to Stranded Records in San Francisco. None of these was cheap, but they're all ones that I'm very excited to add to my collection. None more so than this album by the German prog/krautrock band Birth Control. This is their 6th album from 1976, Backdoor Possibilities. Birth Control was a very long-lived band, or is a very long-lived band. There is still a version of them playing today, which I was very surprised to learn. But they formed back in the 60s in Berlin, and made their first album, self-titled, in 1970 for the Ohr label. Their earlier records were more in a heavy rock vein with prominent organ, along the lines of early Deep Purple or Uriah Heep. This is from the period when they featured keyboardist Zeus B. Held and were very firmly in the prog rock vein. And this is an album, as mentioned, from 1976 on the Brain label, Green Brain. Nice laminated gatefold cover, and inside we see the 4-piece configuration of this lineup, which features Bernd Noski on lead vocals and drums. He is no longer with us. Peter Fuller on bass, who is still in the band to this day. Bruno Frenzel on guitar, also deceased. He suffered a serious electric shock on stage with Birth Control in 1975, and although he survived it, he eventually passed away from complications related to that injury in 1983. And finally, Zeus B. Held on all sorts of keyboards, organs, and synthesizers, as well as alto saxophone. Very much classic prog sound on this album, a little bit of Pink Floyd. I think this direction for the band really came to fruition with the previous album, Plastic People, and you can see a little reference to that album. The character from the cover of that album is hiding in the greenery on the cover of this one. So, Birth Control, Backdoor Possibilities. They certainly had some possibilities for illustrating that title. A number of Birth Control's albums have kind of tongue-in-cheek covers that refer to the ramifications of the band's name, and a lot of them you really have to have kind of a sick sense of humor to appreciate, but there you go. This one is a little more safe. Next, I found this really beautiful copy of the 1972 soundtrack album Continental Circus with music by Gong. This is kind of the forgotten Gong album, coming between the classic Camembert Electrique and the ultra-classic Teapot Trilogy, which I spoke about a little while back. You can go look back to that video for more information. But this was just sort of tossed off at a brief set of recording sessions in 1971 and used for the 1972 film, which is a documentary about motorcycle racing and features the Australian racer Jack Findlay. I'm guessing that that's him on the cover because he's got a kangaroo. I never noticed that sort of highlight on his helmet is a kangaroo. And of course, David Allen himself, hailing from the Australian continent, he shares some simpatico with Jack Findlay, so the main track on here is titled Blues for Findlay, which takes up most of side 1, and then side 2 is largely taken up with Blues for Findlay instrumental. There's also What Do You Want, which is a remake of the track Faux Hat Digs Holes in Space from the Camembert Electrique album, and Continental Circus World, which is a sound collage of dialogue and sounds from the film, with Blues for Findlay sort of looping in the background. So again, it's all kind of tossed off. David Allen didn't have to put a lot of effort into writing new songs, although the song Blues for Findlay itself has a ton of lyrics, which are printed along here. So not the greatest Gong record, but still a lot of fun, and one that I was seriously looking for to add to my collection. I'm delighted to plug that hole. And an interesting detail about this album is that the compositions, which are by David Allen, are all credited for some apparent legal or copyright reason to his partner, Gilly Smythe. And that'll provide an odd link to the next album.
Factory man, biding my time. I'm coming up behind you, gonna leave you behind. I'm eating up the track, I'm all alone. A rich man, I ain't accident prone. You motorcycle racer, the greatest private rider in the world. He's the lucky time chaser, the greatest private rider in the world.
And that next album is the last album. Not the last album in this video, but the last album by Albert Ayler. This was released in 1971 on the Impulse label, about a year after Ayler's passing, under mysterious circumstances. And the genesis of this album was a recording session in August 1969, which recorded enough material for 2 albums, and half of it was released as Music is the Healing Force of the Universe, and then most of the material that was held back was released on this album, the last album. The connection to that Gong album is that all of Albert Ayler's compositions are credited to his partner, Mary Parks, who as a performer is listed as Mary Maria, but as a composer is listed as Mary Parks. She does do vocals and contributed lyrics on this album, which is a great bone of contention for a lot of listeners. This is a very mixed bag. We do have the vocal intrusions, which are not really a classic part of the Albert Ayler saga. We also have very prominent heavy rock blues guitar contributions from Henry Vestine, of course known for having been in Canned Heat and a former member of the original lineup of the Mothers of Invention. The other musicians appearing on the album, besides Albert Ayler, Mary Parks on vocals, and Henry Vestine on guitar, are Bobby Few on piano, two bass players. We have Bill Folwell on bass and Fender bass, and Stafford James on bass, both playing panned left and right on the tracks, and Muhammad Ali on drums. But this album opens with Untitled Duet, which is a performance by Henry Vestine on heavy bluesy electric guitar and Albert Ayler on bagpipe chanter. Now, the bagpipe chanter is tuned to whatever folk scale it is tuned to, so it's not really in tune with the guitar, making this kind of not the easiest thing to listen to. But there you go. Otherwise, when we get Albert Ayler back to his accustomed tenor saxophone, we have moments of absolute greatness. We also have some moments that are a bit pedestrian by Ayler's standards, not as blatantly reaching for the commercial as his album New Grass, but there are elements of that in there. A lot of people feel that Mary Parks was not the greatest influence on Albert Ayler. This is very, very different from the classic stuff he had done for Impulse, the Love Cry, and the Live at Greenwich Village albums, but there's enough really classic sound remaining in even this late in life effort when, frankly, Albert Ayler was just crumbling mentally. And, clearly whatever was happening in his head had something to do with his passing in 1970. But he left us this, and I'm just very glad to have this to listen to, despite all the pain that it may have been born from. And the last album from my visit to Stranded is Echo by Dave Burrell. This is on the BYG label, part of the Actuel series. Always excited to add an original from the series to my collection. This was recorded in 1969 with a septet consisting of Clifford Thornton on cornet, Grisham Munker III on trombone, Arthur Jones on alto sax, Archie Shepp on tenor sax, Dave Burrell on piano, Alan Silva on bass, and Sonny Murray on drums. It consists of two side-long pieces, the side one piece being the title track, Echo, and it is just really hard to believe that only 7 musicians playing only acoustic instruments can create such a cacophony. This is quite possibly the wildest and noisiest free jazz album I have ever heard, at least side one. It's just a torrent of noise from, as I say, just 7 instrumentalists. And you think, well, with Sonny Murray involved on drums, naturally it's going to be pretty powerful on the noise department. No, it's not just the drums doing it, it's everybody. It's just a wash of sound. Side 2 is titled Peace, and it's a more peaceful piece. And it is kind of based on just an ascending scale, so it takes a little while to get going, because when you're first presented with the ascending scale, it sounds like, well, that's not a lot of musical substance to work with, but it makes it. It's cool to listen to. This copy is not in the greatest of condition. It's definitely seen better days. The vinyl's been kind of manhandled. Cover's not bad. But if this were in mint condition, I probably would have paid a lot more for it. As it wasn't cheap. So, as I say, something else I'm very excited to add to my collection, Dave Burrell Echo. Finally, I picked up a copy of the 1979 debut album of the Flying Lizards. This album is known mainly for 2 tracks. There's the single Summertime Blues with the mechanical sounding backing with a bored spoken female vocal on top. And then there's the follow-up, which repeats exactly the same joke with the song Money. So they kind of painted themselves into a corner with those 2 songs. Well, this album is actually, other than, I don't want to say other than those 2 songs, because I still like those 2 songs, but the rest of this album is more eclectic and interesting than you would think based on that material. The album opens with the Brecht Weil tune Der Song von Mandalay, which I talked about in an earlier video a few months back when talking about Dagmar Krause. It's a very frantic performance, sung in a screeching, high-pitched female vocal in the original German. Some interesting performances of the original material, all put together by David Cunningham throughout the album. David Cunningham, you know, apart from doing the deconstructed versions of pop songs, is a fairly serious avant-garde musician. And he's joined on here, although there are no performer credits on the album, he's apparently joined on here by other members of the British avant-garde scene of the time. David Toop and Steve Beresford are notable names who contribute to this album. So there's some pretty interesting kind of post-punk, a little bit of Residence, a little bit of Devo kind of attitude to it. So a little bit more interesting than you might expect just based on Summertime Blues and Money. Now, Flying Lizards did do a whole album where they repeated the Summertime Blues and Money type joke titled Top 10, which is entirely covers of rock and pop and R&B songs given that bored vocal treatment, but I haven't heard that one. And that wraps up the last VC Friday for the year. I hope 2025 has treated you well, and I'll be seeing you in 2026. Thank you for watching, and until then, be well. Talk with you again soon. Bye-bye for now.
This is my love.